All right, moving off of guns and into holsters. Holsters are also a very important lifestyle choice depending on what you do. I like to find a holster that maintains a shape, is durable, it's going to fit my particular application, and you got to think outside the box with that. We actually know a doctor that actually carries on his ankle because he's wearing scrubs, he's in an office all day long, and he can't put a gun on, so that's his only option. But he trains like that. He's actually a phenomenal shooter. So that's an extreme application there for like an ankle holster. Making sure that it is not going to come off, since we're on that subject. You got an ankle holster, make sure it's secure. Make sure that when that weapon system's in there, it stays in there, because this thing's on your foot. You're walking everywhere you go, you're running. You know, the situation is going to dictate. It could get very dynamic, and this thing better not come out. The last thing you want to do is be racing grocery carts down the aisle in the grocery store, and all of a sudden your gun goes flying out. You're going to clear that store out pretty quick. It's happened to Chris before. Let's look at waist holsters, inside the belt holsters. These holsters particularly are very good. I like them because they're comfortable. The gun comes out very easily, but the thing that you got to make sure on here is that the gun goes back in easily. Now this is very used by myself. It's been used a lot, so it's kind of lost its rigidity, and so therefore I would probably decommission this holster and get another one, because I do like these, but it doesn't hold a shape anymore. So again, like that situation we talked about at active shooter, if I pull my gun out somewhere in a mall, I've got my kid in my hand, I better be able to get that gun holstered with a single hand and make sure that that happens quickly, in case law enforcement or somebody else comes in, you don't want to act as that active shooter. So very important feature to look for there. That's why I typically stick with the Kydex holsters. These Ravens are real thin, real light, very durable. You guys can see what we put them through, and they fit concealed. They fit a full-size gun. I can conceal a full-size frame gun, M&P, with a light on it. But I have to dress to that holster and dress to that gun. But it still is a really good practical option.
Yeah, I would like to add one thing on this particular holster that Travis is talking about here. There are a couple different things to consider. Also is you'll see a lot of holsters where the gun actually, the muzzle's way down here. And it's kind of a cool look. Some people really like that look, but remember, what looks cool and what's going to work are completely two different things. I've seen a lot of shooters where they've got a really big, they've got an aftermarket front sight on there for shooting matches or just to be a better shooter, because it gives them a better sight picture. And as they draw their gun, because of the way they draw, if you notice, the gun's going to start down here, the muzzle's going to start down here, and sometimes as they start to pull it out, they start to turn the gun, which is normal. It's what you do under stress. And I'll see that front sight snag, and the worst thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to spin that gun, and most shooters will come up, catch it, and spin the gun right out of their hands. So the important thing, if you're going to get a holster like this, is make sure that it generally fits flush to the muzzle. That's what I would stress.
And I'm guilty of carrying that style sight. Chris knows that. So I have to train that way to make sure it doesn't snag. You know, I have moved on to different holsters that I don't have that issue with, but again, keep that consideration in mind. Let's talk about pocket holsters. We already talked about pocket guns. Simple pocket holsters. This is something that you need to keep in mind with these. The biggest problem I see is you go to pull a gun out of your pocket and the whole holster and everything comes out with it. So if you do choose to carry that type of weapon system, then make sure you have a holster that's going to stay in your pocket, that has like a rubber mesh on the outside, and the gun comes out nice and clean and stays within that 2-second rule of concealment. We'll talk about cross draw belly bands. Belly band cross draw typically is something that you wear tight, kind of like a back brace underneath your shirt. Like I could easily wear a belly band under here if I was in a deep concealment. Probably a good option as a backup type of gun. Some of these smaller guns, like a wheel gun, like the Smith & Wesson J-frames over there, is a really good option for a cross draw belly band. And I typically like to keep my button unbuttoned here, where I can reach my hand in, get to that cross draw, and it's actually pretty convenient. It's pretty efficient, and I can employ that backup gun if I need to from a belly band. Let's talk about appendage carries. Appendage carries are for a deep type of cover. Some people actually choose to carry them. Some people are actually very good at getting these guns out. It basically goes around like a diaper pretty much, and you have to pull your belt out and the gun's sitting there. Obviously, you got to be aware that you know, if you are going to carry that, you've got to be very proficient at it, because obviously bad things can happen, and in that area I don't really want anything bad happening.
Yeah, I'm going to hit on that really quick. If you find yourself in a fight, just know that whether you do a true, some guys are running Kydex or a leather appendix carry style, or that which is more, you know, up underneath your clothing and hidden, mainly because a lot of guys like it because, you know, when they bend over, they don't print with the weapon system. Yeah, it's still in a very convenient spot. Just remember, you could find yourself in a fight. And if that fight happens, you could and probably are most likely to go down to the ground. And if you get somebody on top of you, it's going to be hard to get your hand that you're utilizing to try to keep yourself, you know, to keep yourself in more of a defensive position working that person if an opportunity provides it for you to get to a firearm because you think you're about to die. And again, that's your call, but you decide to make it a commitment and employ that weapon system. Can you get to it? I know I can get to the one on my side and at least get it into the side of them and then work that gun. But on some of the other style appendix carries, can you get your hand in between his body and your body with all that weight there, pushing down on top of you, and then not only that, but you are pulling out a hot gun at that point. And then once you, let's just say, get it out, how do you get that muzzle turned towards him or her? If that's what the case is. And that's where some other things that you need to think about come into play. So at least that's why, one of the reasons why I'll just keep mine on my side, because I can maneuver it however I want to. And I know as soon as that muzzle comes out, I have enough room to orientate it in case I end up getting into a fight. Because I know myself, and I even know Travis, we've been in a lot of fights before, and I've been really glad that I've been able to get my gun out and get it employed in time. And I can tell you that wouldn't work 95% of the time for us.
That's what I was going to say. 95% rule. It works in speed. It works in defensive situations like he just said. It works for carrying the gun that I need for that application to get that accuracy in case that's my decision that I make that day to take a shot at 50 yards across them all. Works with that weapon system, so it comes around full circle. That 95% rule is huge, and that goes with the CCW lifestyle, what we're talking about. The only other holster I haven't really covered here is kind of a shoulder holster. You don't see them a lot anymore. There are still some people I see out there that do carry them, but something to take in consideration with that is look at how you're drawing the gun. Sometimes if you carry a larger frame gun, they do print, they make you look kind of funny, so you keep that in mind. If you have them going straight back, there are the shoulder holsters that they go down. So if you're wearing a suit or a jacket, make sure that it doesn't print or actually show itself easily, which sometimes those holsters will do. The other issue you got to look at there is when you're coming over here and drawing this weapon system and your thread is here, your muzzle's pointed backwards. So you've got to rotate that weapon system around to employ it. So if that's what you decide to carry, probably not the most efficient thing that I would carry, but if you do, you've got to make sure that you fit well into that 2-second rule number 1, and you're not flagging a lot of people or yourself when you're actually employing the weapon system on a threat.
The biggest thing about all of this, with what we've been talking about and even in the class, I don't care how fast you are. It doesn't matter if you're a half-second draw and you can hit that plate, or a an 8-inch circle at 7 yards in a half a second. If you never see it coming, it will not matter. And that goes back to the combat mindset that we harp on, that we talk about, because mindset is very important. Situational awareness is very important. And it's not going to matter how much, or the fact that you spent $2,000 on some kind of fancy concealment gun, and then you get the holster to match, and you feel like you're on top of the world. But if you don't see it coming, or your situational awareness is not where it is, it won't matter. It won't matter. So a lot of this can be dealt with too with good situational awareness, which is avoidance as well. So just some other things to consider.